Welcome to Preaching Young. I am Aiden Grozer, the pastor here at Trinity Southern Baptist Church in Falmouth, Kentucky, and you're listening to episode 16. How excited! And here's the greatest thing about it: I said that at the 16-second mark.
Did you really?
According to the computer. I don't know if that was accurate, but I tried my best to do that for 16
well,
seconds.
technically, we've got 16 seconds of an intro, so that's 30-second mark.
I didn't think about
32
that.
second mark.
But I'm excited, man. I'm pumped. I'm excited. You know why I'm excited? Because all these haters out there said we couldn't make it episode 4, and here we are at episode 16. And I'm excited. We have a great episode for you, and be on the lookout because episode 20 is going to be our biggest episode yet. And
We've got the biggest
down.
special guest.
Oh, I'm so excited.
The biggest guest we probably ever had on the show. History.
Oh.
I hope so. I can't wait. So we have a lot of good stuff coming up, and we are appreciative of the support that you have given us.
Very.
Every play, every share, every like is great for us. So keep it up, and I'm excited.
Thanks for the support. It means a lot.
And I'm excited because this weekend is 4th of July weekend. And it's funny because here in our town, we're having a 4th of July parade. You know what that parade consists of?
Not really a parade.
You can't be on a float. You can't walk by the float. I don't know, man. When you social distance, I don't even know how they're going to do it. I don't know how they're going to do it.
Well, what'd you say? They can't
my
do.
goodness.
They can't have people walking next
Nope.
to the float. You can't
No
have
candy,
People,
no
you can't have
candy.
nobody throwing candy. You can't have more than a certain amount of people on the float.
This is the reality.
It's going to
we're living
be
in.
what this parade's going to turn into is a drive around Falmouth.
drive through. It's just weird, man. The whole thing's weird, and I guarantee that with all the friends and families that are going to be getting together over the weekend, they're going to have spikes in the virus cases again because we see that all over the place. We have spikes during 4th of July. We're going to have spikes again when school starts. We'll have spikes again when Labor Day is. We'll have spikes again for President's Day or whatever else is next. And then Thanksgiving, all of it.
I don't think President's Day's in. Where is that?
It's
I think
January.
I think we already missed it. I think we passed that.
It's just an interesting time we're living in. Just a very interesting time. And I'm going to be honest with you. I hate 4th of July weekend. Not because I don't like America. I love America. I'm an American.
It's one of my favorite holidays.
I'm a patriot. But I will say I don't like 4th of July weekend because as a parent, it takes me all night to get the kids to go to sleep. I got 3 kids. It takes me all night to get them to go to sleep. And once they go to sleep, 10, 11 o'clock comes. And what do my neighbors do? They start shooting off these fireworks. Pow, 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 pow. And the kids wake up screaming and upset. And they're like, oh my gosh, Daddy, what was that? And I'm like, it's just my neighbors. I almost called you stupid neighbors, but I didn't. I refrained. So there you go.
So if they're listening, they'll.
Thanks for being great neighbors.
No, you just bashed them. Whatever.
But I love you because I'm supposed to love my neighbors.
Good, nice job. Way to turn biblical back. To
That's right. But I'm excited. You all doing okay?
Yeah.
Brittany's in the mood today, so just
No, I'm not.
put on your seatbelts and hang on.
Oh, no.
The printer wasn't working when I came in. She had
We left, actually.
we had to leave. She was so upset. She was misinformation in the bulletins that I had to correct that she wasn't upset. I wasn't happy about. So me and Andrew took some trash grabbers and we went to our trail that we've been adopting as a church, and we just picked up trash for the morning, just to let her
have her moment.
have her moment.
I actually got a lot of stuff done after
She actually
you guys
did.
left.
She actually got a lot done.
We were only gone for 2 hours.
It was not. You guys were not
goodness.
gone for 2 hours.
It was a fun morning. Eventful morning.
It was
at
an
that.
eventful morning. It was fun. We got to see some people and talk. There was a guy at the
Oh, this was pretty
at the
neat.
Falmouth Dam.
We
that
didn't tell
was,
Bernie this yet.
He was fishing with a pop bottle. Like a
I
little
think it was like
plastic
I think
bottle.
it was a bigger one. I think it was like a liter, like one of the 1 liter
It
ones.
was
It was a normal one.
Yeah. Really? He had that thing. He had fishing wire wrapped around it.
So he opened up the cap, and I think he had the back of it
Yeah.
cut, and he like threw it out of like the
Just
he,
like a
he kept
fishing
the
line.
bobber like
Yeah.
where you would put your mouth at, and like kind of threw it just like you would throw a fish. And
He
I
said it was
oh my gosh,
it was
he's-
working all
he said
morning.
it wears you out a little bit more than usual, but
Yeah.
I was impressed.
Yeah. It was cool.
The things you see.
And it was exciting. So we got to meet some new people,
Nice guy.
see some new
Real nice
faces,
guy.
and
We also one of the main purposes of we went out there was for our check out some spots for potential river baptisms.
I'm glad you brought that up. We have about 4 baptisms that we're going to be doing here. And this week, we had a bunch of rain come in, so.
Literally the day before we were going to do baptisms. It wasn't even.
So the river was a little bit too high and a little fast moving for us to do it, for safety reasons. But I think we're going to try to do it next week, hopefully. So I'm excited about it.
Checked out 2 locations.
Yeah, it'll be my first,
I've never
river
participated
baptism
in one.
as a pastor. So it
Never
should be
been
fun.
Never.
We'll do some hymns, we'll sing some acapella hymns,
We should.
and
That's right.
dunk them, and then hopefully no snakes come up, because I'm afraid of snakes.
That'd be hilarious.
That'd be so funny. No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't be funny, okay? Heart attacks are not funny.
Hopefully get it on video.
Well, you'll be there, so.
That's a true
You
statement.
keep it up, we're going to make you go in the water with us.
Now, I heard that we got a question for the day.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pumped about this.
We haven't had an email on that.
We haven't had it for a couple weeks, and I think the last one was a guy named Dave, and we appreciate those emails, so.
Keep them coming. You can email us at
Keep 'em coming.
preachingyoung@gmail.com.
Preaching Young.
Make sure you keep them coming. This
At
one's from Melissa.
gmail.com.
Wait, who?
You done?
Melissa?
Melissa.
Melissa.
Oh,
not
Melissa.
Melissa.
Sorry.
From Burlington.
Hello.
Burlington Coke Factory.
Not the same place.
Burlington, is that created in, was that
No.
founded in Burlington?
No. In fact, Burlington is just over by Florence, so it's probably like 45 minutes from here. 30 minutes, 45 minutes from here.
I'd definitely say about an hour.
Probably not.
I know Burlington Baptist Church. Shout out to Burlington Baptist.
Anyway, can we get to the question, please?
Great pastor there. Go ahead.
So she says she loves our podcast.
Melissa!
She appreciates us doing it every week and the consistency,
Thank you.
So,
It's hard work.
thanks. Oh, yeah, it is. It's dealing with
You know-
hard. You weren't going to say it, but I will. Anyway, the question she has for us is this. She says her parents are not believers,
Yeah.
and sometimes when she tries to hold them accountable, she says they have the same response to her, and that response is, that's not very Christian-like.
Oh my gosh.
So, she wants to know how she should respond to that in a Christ-like way.
Well, here's the thing. You have to first understand why they're saying that. The reason that anybody will say that to somebody, right? That's not very Christian of you. Like sometimes I'll call somebody out and they'll be like, well, that's not very that's not a very pastor thing to say, or whatever the case is.
We all hear it.
But you have to understand that the reason that is said is because they don't know what else to say, right? They have no excuse to whatever you called them out on, whatever the sin is or whatever the accountability thing is, right? They have no excuse for why they did whatever or why they're doing whatever. And so their first response or only response is turn to you and say, well, that's not very Christian of you to say something to me about it. But the reality is, it is very Christian. I mean, the Bible is full of places where it tells us to call out those things. I even think of Galatians, I believe it is. Galatians chapter 6. Don't quote me on that, I'm pretty sure. I think it's Galatians chapter 6, 1 through 3. Look that up. Galatians chapter 6, 1 through 3. It tells us that, we're supposed to do that with a gentleness, right? A spirit of gentleness. We're supposed to hold people together. What does it say?
What'd you say, 1 through 3?
Yeah, 1 through 3.
Let's see, Galatians chapter 6, 1 through 3. If anyone is caught in any trespass, you who are spiritual, restore such one another in a spirit of gentleness.
Yeah.
Each one looking to yourself, so that you too will not be tempted.
Yeah. You have to bear one another's burdens. And you have to sit there. It's your job as a Christian to call that kind of stuff out, because here's the thing.
Oh, look at this one, verse 3. For if anyone thinks he is something when he is nothing, he deceives himself.
Yeah. And the reality is, I always take it as when they say it to me, that there's a guilty conscience and they know what they're doing, and so keep doing it. Don't be upset about it. Don't
let it discourage you.
Yeah, don't let it discourage you at all, because the fact that you're doing it is actually one of the most Christian things for you to do. Here's the reality: a lot of because we deal with it from a lot of Christians.
Yeah.
And the reality.
In fact, it actually comes from
a lot of
Christians more than
non-believers. Yeah. And for us, it's like, you know what? The reason we're saying something is because we're sick of seeing people live a different life. Christians are very hypocritical. I mean, it's one of the biggest excuses for why people don't come to church. And it's something that I hate to see. And so when we're sitting there seeing churches doing something that they shouldn't be doing, or we're seeing Christians doing something they shouldn't be doing, we're going to call it out and we're going to address it, because we're called in the Bible not to be stumbling blocks for other believers or non-believers. And so we have to call it out. And if that upsets them, that's on them. That's between them and God. But for us, we have to do that.
And I will say, just because you don't see a response initially from calling them out, saying like, you know, you probably shouldn't be doing that, or however you're calling them out, just because you don't see an initial change from
Yes,
that.
yes.
It's working on them.
Yeah.
Like God's gonna work on them behind the scenes.
And
more than
they
you
may
know.
never admit that.
They'll never say it to you probably, so don't expect it. But that's not for us to do. We're just supposed to call them out in
Yeah.
a loving way, gentle way.
In a gentle way, yep. And God will bless you for it. So, good question.
Got
Good
anything to say,
question.
Brittany? Want to add on anything?
Well, I think with her parents not being believers, that adds their, of course they're gonna try to be like, no, hey Melissa, like, you're a Christian, you shouldn't be doing that. Like, that's what we mean when we tell our youth and everything, that people are gonna look at you when you're a Christian. They're gonna watch what you do. They're gonna try to pick out every single thing. If you have a friend at school that's not a Christian, they're gonna be looking at you. Oh, if you say a cuss word, they're gonna think it's okay for them to cuss. And I just think that speaks volumes to Christians being examples of Christ. And I think you're doing a great job, so keep doing it.
Keep it up,
Like they
Melissa.
said, you might never see it, but.
And make sure you're doing it in a gentle way.
Yes, of course.
But the reality is, you know, we have, as Christians, have for too long bowed down to what the society has told us to do or what churches have decided to do. We can't do that anymore. It's time that we get back to the basics of the Bible and we start, you know, not trying to get into the theology of all these things, but we need to say, look, right, you can't do this and you can't say that, right? And we don't have to, as Christians, we don't have to sit there and listen to it.
Because we don't answer. The reality is we don't answer to anybody on the earth.
Nope.
Right? We don't answer to people that say that to us or, you know, want to do anything to us. So we answer to God. So
Yeah, if I listen to people, I wouldn't be where I am. Our church wouldn't be growing as fast as it has grown because we're not doing what everyone said we should do, right? They go, hey, you can't have hymns, you can't, you know, you can't have a traditional service and grow a church. You can't grow a church in the middle of a small town. You can't, you know, grow church wearing a suit. You gotta look relaxed. You gotta be comfortable with the people that you're preaching to. Yeah,
hip.
it's like, yeah, I don't care. I don't care about it.
So good question, Melissa. Good question.
Appreciate it.
Stay strong.
Stay strong. Yeah. Any other questions? Make sure you send those in to me.
Into you.
Yeah.
Into the
Into me.
on,
They really want my opinion. Tell them.
I know they do.
Look,
Listen,
my opinion.
it's like me and Brittany here. Your world. we're living
Everybody
in.
wants my opinion. They're like, Abram, we want your opinion. I saw an article today that said, a true leader isn't somebody in a position, isn't somebody, but it's somebody that has followers. And, you know, sometimes people, what are you doing, Britt? Facebooking?
Brittany
No.
is texting in the middle of our podcast.
Listen, I had a friend that just texted me 3 times. She never does that, so I need to make sure she was okay.
Good call,
Okay.
good call, good call.
Caring
Keep
for
us
your friend.
updated.
There you go.
She's such a liar. We know
No,
that's
it was
definitely
Courtney.
Facebook. Wow, call out no names.
Shout out.
Shout out to Courtney. Hope
Well-
your brakes get better.
Well, listen, here's the reality. Is she okay? Her brakes?
Yeah, she just asked where I get my car worked on.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
You need brakes.
Listen, there's some controversy that happened. Nah, it wasn't really. It's not. It's a weird story, but there was something that happened this week that caused a lot of controversy on social media within a couple of big churches that are in our area, in our northern Kentucky tri-state area, and I wanted to get your guys' opinion on it. I'm gonna say their names because I have nothing against these churches, but I want to get the
Big
context in there. Oh yeah, Crossroads,
Big church. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
one of the fastest growing churches in America.
I was gonna say that's a nationwide thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And then Florence Baptist is one of our bigger mega churches in our northern Kentucky
Not
for
local,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Crossroads has decided to revamp their logo and their vision, which is always a good thing. I mean, I think they've had their logo and vision for like 30 years or something, I don't remember what it was. And
What is their vision?
I have two problems. that I want to address, but then we'll kind of go from there. But the first problem is, I see this with a lot of these big churches, the X. They do the X. That's their
Yeah.
logo, the X. See, have you ever seen that?
For Crossroads?
For anybody. Crossroads, I think Elevation does it for their Orange Revival.
Orange or Bible?
I think that's what they call
Maybe
it.
I don't know.
You've seen X's though on like a lot
Yeah.
of
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Like it's just like a black screen and a little X.
But what's that symbolize, right? We have the cross, right?
Yeah.
But yet, I don't know what the X is. I don't know why that's a hip thing to do.
Yeah.
Like X for me is like a
Wrong.
wrong
Yeah.
or
Missed it, yeah.
yeah, like I don't know. So anyway, Crossroads came up with this new logo, It's an X, which I think their last one was an X, but this is an X. But the way that it looks, I'll put a picture up on the.
Are they changing their name? Or they're still Crossroads, right?
Still Crossroads. It's just their logo. It's orange, and it's of an X. They call it a screw head, which makes it even less of a thing. But their goal is they want to be more. Yeah, there it is. They want to be. Now go to Florence Baptist. Now that you've seen it, go to Florence Baptist. They want to be more adventurous, they said, so they've updated things. But their logo is identical to Florence Baptist's logo.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same thing.
That's the same thing.
It's the same logo.
Now go to their website, go to their Facebook, their main one, their main key.
I will say the only
Go down.
There's not a difference hardly at all. Go
Scroll
to the
down.
website.
No, scroll down.
Go to Facebook.
Because they address it, right? Keep
On
going.
this video, right here.
Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going.
My goodness.
Right there. One more. Down. I'll put this up there too. Read what they said.
Okay, so Florence Baptist, June 26, says, there is no competition among churches. The gospel is the message and life changes is
Now
the goal.
go to the comments. Now, who writes on there?
Crossroads Church.
What do they say?
You guys rock. Thankful to run after the kingdom alongside you. Also, love your logo.
How weird is all this? They literally got the same exact logo. I mean it's identical.
How come I didn't know? How
I'll
come I
put them
didn't see
side
this?
by side.
It's the same thing.
But
The
if-
only difference is the colors are flipped.
Now,
That's it.
if you go on Crossroads' Facebook page and look at when they actually put up their new logo, the comment sections are whoosh.
Really?
It's not good, man. They
For
got
Crossroads?
a lot of hate for Crossroads because they're like, this is Florence Baptist, and Florence Baptist has had theirs for a while.
Yeah.
But I don't know about the actual cross as the symbol. I think Crossroads had it longer, so I don't know, man.
Yeah.
The whole thing, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why.
I don't understand the cross still. Like why it's, because it's an X. It's not a cross.
It's an X. It's not a cross,
Yeah.
and they say it's a screw head, which makes no sense.
Huh.
But my thing is, I don't know why. I don't know why that would be your logo. Like, why are we as churches, like, they're innovative people. Why
Yeah,
couldn't
right.
they be more innovative than that? On the flip side of it, where is that? Because they're like, our vision is going to be adventurous, and that's our new logo. Where's the biblical reference to it, right? For us, we don't even really have a logo, right? Except for our church, or
Sure.
we have a cartoon.
Church on the move.
Church.
It's kind of like
But
a church.
our vision is church on the move. Our vision is everything we do. We want it to be God-centered and God-led, and we want it to, it's one of the reasons why I would never sit there and take off. Our name is Trinity Southern Baptist Church. I wouldn't sit there and change the church name to be more relevant or hip. Like I wouldn't change it like Elevated or like
Trinity Church.
Yeah, or like Cloud. I don't.
It's a
On
good thing.
Cloud 9 Church or something.
You're being honest.
It's
I
a
mean,
good
people
thing.
do that.
They
It's a
do.
good thing you're not
And
doing
it's
it.
crazy because you're like, oh, is that a sushi place? No,
Yeah.
it's a church.
Or you see, here's a really big trend right now is people, especially in the Baptist church, they're taking off the Baptist
Yep.
because they think that's going to get people to
Yeah.
come to their church. I'm like, one, that's manipulative because you're trying to like act like you're a community church, but you're not a community church. You're a denomination. You have a strong denomination.
Yeah.
So it's manipulative. One. Number two, why are you shying away? If you're a Baptist, why shy away from being a Baptist?
Yeah. Like, what's wrong with it?
What comes next?
What comes
Then
next?
You're a church. Are you going to shy away from being a church?
Well, then you change that name from Main Street to High Point or whatever it is because you want to be as hip as you can be. It doesn't
Right.
make sense, right? So I'm like, and here's the reality that I'd love to get with this with preachers' heads. Trinity Southern Baptist Church has not stopped anybody from coming into the church.
Nope.
Right? It wasn't. They weren't like, oh, that's a Southern Baptist.
Yeah, they're not like,
church.
oh, we can't go to that. It's Trinity Southern Baptist. I don't want to do it.
Like, oh my God! Like they're coming to hear the gospel, and they're coming because we're serving in our community and we're doing outreach and we're preaching the gospel. So that's what's going to bring them into the church. It's not going to be your name. It's not going to be the fact that you're a hip thing.
But that's
I
the
hate
same.
that.
That's the same for everything. We talked about it before on the podcast.
And it may for a second.
It may for a second. Just like you said, I believe it was last episode. You said people flocked to churches after 9/11
Yep.
and then they started incorporating this praise and worship at the same time. So they incorporated the two together, and they were like, oh, that's what brought people to church. But in reality, that's not. People don't come to church for your name. They don't come to church for the music you're playing. If they are, they're coming to church for the wrong reason. They should be coming for the gospel you're preaching, or what you're doing as a church.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. So it's interesting our mindset behind these type of things, but we have to get more focused. And I liked how Florence Baptist responded to it because they could have sat there and
They could have badmouthed
it was a good opportunity for them to badmouth them, but they took a higher road, which
Just said, hey, like the new logo.
yeah.
It's not, yeah, it's about it.
But at the same time, it would be frustrating because it's like.
It's
you know,
probably a good thing that Florence Baptist addressed it,
Yes.
because in a positive way.
They
because they could have,
They nipped it in the bud real quick.
yeah, and that's probably a good thing that they did that, because if they could have just been quiet, word could have spread that they were mad or something. So it's probably a good thing that they addressed it in a positive way. So
And this is the thing we're dealing with right now. We're having a fair coming into our town. Now this is another funny thing because we're having a fair, and the way that the fair board is organizing this event, they're doing, some things are doing some events and not other events, and they're trying to limit the amount of events that they're having, so that limits the amount of people that comes.
they're just cutting some out.
It's a pretty good decision to do that. I agree with that. But the bad part is they've cut out the Christian night. We have a Christian night that kicks off the fair, uses the hymn sing, where we have gospel groups come in, or we have local singers.
Yeah.
And so I was approached by the Pilgrim County Cooperative of Churches to do something for our youth. It's a youth fair. It's usually that night is geared towards older people in our community. And so they said, we really want to bring in youth. We really want to have a youth event. And so I got a hold of Blake Whiteley. He's if you ever heard the song Glory Gang or Turbulence, is a good one. He has a lot of good songs out
You should
there.
look him up.
Blake
Christian
Whiteley, great
hip-hop
hit,
world, yeah.
Christian hip hop guy. And so we actually got a hold of them. He was going to come and do a youth event for us, and we just found out last night or 2 nights ago that they're canceling that portion of that night of the fair.
Yeah.
So it's been frustrating on one end, but it's been very important for us because immediately when they said, we're really upset about this, we're going to have to do this. I was upset with the reasoning, I was upset with the decision, but I knew as a church, how we respond to this is going to say a lot about us as a church. Because we can sit there and badmouth the fair, we can sit there and badmouth some of the board members.
Yeah.
You're related to the president and the vice president.
Vice president and president are both my cousins.
Yeah, so we could sit there. We could have sat there and really made a big fuss about it. We really could have done a lot. Or we could sit there and say, you know what? The bullet's already in me.
You said the sermon.
Teddy Roosevelt gets shot. Says
You
the
should say
bullet's
it.
already.
It's on the
Yeah,
podcast.
Teddy Roosevelt. He was running for president. Gets
I'm
shot.
sure he did say this
Not on the podcast. It was in a sermon. Shows where you listen. Go ahead.
He gets shot, and instead of him worrying about it or complaining about it, he says the bullet's already in me, and he went ahead and
Gave like an hour-long
gave
speech,
the rest of
didn't
his speech. By the end of the speech, he was sitting there in a pool of blood. But that's how we have to react as churches. You know what? The decision's already done. We can complain about all we want. The decision's already done. So now, how as a church, this is what we talk about as staff. How do we move on and still have the event in a different location?
And how do we address
Safely.
safely? But how do we kind of going back to the bullets already ends? How do we stay positive as
Yes.
a church?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
'cause
were all
like you said,
excited.
we
We're all pumped, telling people about it.
Right, of course we're going to be excited about the event. We're also going to be discouraged when the event necessarily doesn't get to happen at that location. But like you said, we could take it one of two ways. We could say, hey, forget everything.
Same with Florence Baptist.
Right, they could have
They
done
could
the same
have
thing.
taken it one direction or not, and because they took the high road, right? They were able to say, look, this is what we as Florence Baptist, they're saying this is what we stand for. Right? We stand for the gospel. We're not into that kind of stuff. So that's very good for
Very,
them, man.
very,
That was huge.
yeah, very cool
And I think it
work.
says a lot about that church.
And I will say, ever since you
But research, man. If you're a church, research these
Oh, yeah.
stuff before you start.
it was perfect timing when you said, I enjoyed that story, the Thomas Jefferson story. I enjoyed it. Because it was perfect timing, because the week after that, we had another issue with the
Yeah, I was gonna say,
What
Thomas
did I say? Did I say Thomas Jefferson?
Wait, I have a
Teddy
question.
Roosevelt. Hang on.
Answer this. Wait, so did Thomas Jefferson, was he the one that did the light bulb?
No, that was Thomas Edison. You're a college graduate. You should know these things.
Campbell County.
Campbell
school
County
system.
graduate.
I don't care what anybody says. Campbell County has the worst public education I've ever seen in my entire life.
I will
Where are your
second.
kids
I
going?
graduated. Your kids will eventually go there.
I don't know.
They're going to Campbell
Well, the ones in
County.
preschool,
They're young,
they're
they're
okay.
kids.
He's
I don't-
got a long way to decide before
Jeez,
that
oh,
happens.
Pete.
But I will-
And you guys are making it abundantly clear that Campbell County is not the way to go.
Sorry, Campbell County people
Jeez, oh,
listening.
Pete.
Anyway, so I will say, as soon as you preached on that, what Theodore was Thomas Roosevelt? What'd you say? What'd you say?
Teddy
Teddy
Roosevelt.
Roosevelt. His name's really Theodore, so I wanted to call him Theodore.
It's okay.
Whatever,
Go
Teddy
ahead.
Roosevelt. So I will say, the week after that sermon, you said that story. Quit laughing. The week after you said that, we had another issue occur with a concert,
Yes,
And then,
yes.
and that was our exact mindset because
And it was the same location, it's the
it
same,
was the
same
same
people
place.
that we're dealing
It was
with.
the same place.
And-
That one was a little bit different.
And that was because there was a 6-hour difference. If we would have waited 6 hours, nobody would have got the virus, but there's a 6 hour.
Yeah, their amphitheaters didn't open a day. We were there. Our concert was the day before the amphitheaters opened. 6 hours before,
6
not
hours.
even a day. So that was interesting. But I will say, I have every time something's happened with work or in my life, that story always pops back in my head because I'm thinking to myself, hey, I could go
Good
and
preacher,
be.
ain't
What?
Good preacher, heard that from a good preacher, didn't you?
Yeah, right. Good preacher. Anyway, so I'd take that in real life. I use it all the time.
Didn't
At
you?
least for the past couple weeks, I've done that. I seriously, if something happens and I'm like not happy about it, I'm discouraged about it, I say, well, hey, I can do one thing. I can complain about it. I can let it ruin my day, or I can say, listen, it's already happened.
It's a bad moment.
It's a bad moment, and I'm just going to deal with it, and I'll keep moving on.
Yeah.
And I will say one thing I've also incorporated into that is I will pray instantly.
Yeah.
When something discouraging happens, or before I know something could discourage me, I say, you know what? I'm just going to go to God and let Him take it over, because the bullet's already in me.
Yeah, we had a member just yesterday contact me and say, hey, I'm thinking about going to another church, another religion, to be honest with you. And I could have been upset about it, but instead I was like, hey man, let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. And then all of a sudden I realized that it had nothing to do with religion. It had really to do with some other issues. But you never know what people are going through, and you never know what organizations are going through. And with our youth fair, like we're not seeing behind the scenes of what they're dealing with and the opinions that they're having to deal with, and the health.
How many
like the
people
health
are yelling at
departments,
them?
how many
Yeah.
the health department's involved. And I think it was more our wonderful health department that had more to say about us not having our Christian event, which we almost could probably sue because of discrimination, to be honest with you. But the bull's already in us.
Bullets
Yeah.
already in us. And as Christians, I feel like we should take a lot of encouragement to that.
Yes.
And start literally living by that kind of mentality,
Well-
saying, you can take things two ways.
And as the leadership of the church, we want the church to respond in their lives in a certain way, and so we have to respond that same way when it comes to issues with the church. So this cancellation is for us is going to be like, all right, this is how we want you. Here's how we expect you to handle similar situations. We're going to deal with it. We're going to make the best out of it.
Because here's how we did it. Here's how we handled it. Yeah.
And we're not going to be upset or distracted by what everyone else is doing. We're going to really still stay focused because we believe that this concert's God-led. We believe that there's going to be teenagers that are going to see this Blake Whiteley, who's a Christian hip-hop artist, who's going to sit there and be inspired, because this is the thing. Growing up, when I realized that there was Christian alternative to music, it changed my life. When I would sit there and go, you know what, I wish, because I was like, man, I wish I could listen to rap music, but I don't, the things that they're saying is inappropriate. My mom would never let me listen to it. When I realized that there was Christian rap music, it was awesome.
And I was in the same boat because I love music.
Yeah.
You love music too. Brittany, kind of like music.
I sing.
Shucks Disney, oh my goodness.
Don't get us started. Anyway, but I like music. So when I listen to music, more or less, I'm listening to the beat behind the
Yes.
music more or less than the lyrics.
Most
But
times, yeah.
most times I'm listening to just the music because I just like music.
Yeah.
And like you said, when I found out that there was Christian music that was just as cool, I think it's 10 times better, to be
Yeah.
honest, because then you have lyrics and beats that match with kind of what you're talking about.
And you can listen to it and literally be in a spiritual mindset. Like you can literally,
Because they're saying encouraging
they're
things,
saying
spiritual
encouraging
things.
things, spiritual things,
Biblical things, yeah.
And so it's such a life-changing thing. And so we understand that when we can bring a guy like Blake Whiteley, who has a great testimony, who sings great music, that's going to sit there and build up these kids. If we can get him through the doors, man, it's going to change some kids' lives. And so we believe this is still God-led, and that we're not going to sit there and let the devil get to us. We're going to sit there and still allow God to have His way, and I think God will bless us
And
for
from
it.
what the last he said, he's still excited, right?
Oh, he's pumped.
Still wants to
He's
come.
still pumped and excited,
Which means, guess what?
which means we
We're
are too.
Still gonna have a concert.
Yes,
So,
so I'm pumped. And those are the guys that I love having do concerts, that they go, hey, we don't care how many kids are there, we don't care where it's at, give us an opportunity, we'll be there, and we're gonna.
because the reality is, guess what? Wherever two or more are gathered.
Amen, brother. We're gonna take a quick break. After our break, we're gonna come back with part 2, and we'll talk about the
Couple
challenges
things.
of running a church through a pandemic. It's challenging. There's no rule book or anything that's kind
Uncharted
of how to
waters,
deal
too.
with it.
Nobody's
Yeah,
ever
so
done it, so.
we're gonna be talking about that. We'll talk a little bit about our pastors are dealing with it, and we'll go from there. So hang on.
Sit tight.
All right, we're back with part 2 of episode 16.
I'm Brittany. I am the administrative assistant here at Trinity Southern Baptist Church.
Foundling Kentucky population, Pendleton County population, 50,000 something.
I know, I gotta work on that.
We've got to get that Falmouth population because we always try to say that. Anyway, my name's Andrew.
And my name is Edmund Crozier, pastor here at Trinity Southern Baptist Church, Falmouth, Kentucky. And listen, I'm excited. We just turned in our numbers for the fiscal year, and man, everything's up.
Encouraging numbers.
Our giving's up, our spending's up. No, but we're doing so good as a church, and our attendance is up. I mean, you name it, baptisms are up.
Just about everything.
We're defying the odds as a church, especially in the Southern Baptist denomination, and it's good to see, man.
It's cool to be a part of
It's
too.
rare to see. It's good to see, and it's interesting to watch people who were a part of a broken church and seeing how they respond to a growing church, because it's different. It's definitely a change. There's some people that don't like it. Some people that are
We've
caught
seen it, yeah.
but there's other people that really do appreciate the work that's being put in, and so that's something that I love. But I'm gonna tell you what, being a church during this pandemic is hard.
How so? Give us some examples.
Well, let me think. First off, when this pandemic first happened, and I believe I said this in episode 6.
Was it really that? Should we go back check it out?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, we didn't start this podcast until the pandemic happened, did we?
Actually, you're right. It was the beginning
Pretty
of the pandemic.
close. I didn't recognize that.
This is why we did it.
Realize.
It's exactly why we did it. Well, we were talking about it anyway, but
I know, but
but
did
it kind of
because
like
we're
it jump started our
Yes.
our
Wow, that's
push to do
been
it.
so long ago.
because we cut out evening service, Wednesday night services, and so we were like, let's just do a podcast.
Here we are.
It's not been a long time. It actually weird.
16
Okay,
episodes.
here's what's weird about it, because they said, really this is in April, they said, shut down, right?
Yeah.
2 weeks. We have to do what? You remember the words? The phrase they kept
Self-isolate.
using? No. Flatten?
Flatten the curve. Flatten the curve. You're right.
We
That's
heard
what it
this thing for a month.
Ugh.
We need to flatten the curve. We need to flatten the curve. We need to flatten the
It
curve.
is weird
We
to
need to
say.
cancel churches. We need to flatten the curve.
It all started at just a 2-week stay at home.
That's all it was. They said, look, if here the scientists and the health experts said, if we just take 2 weeks, we will flatten that curve.
Which, by the way, those same health scientists and health people have changed their mind on this
They
entire
all
thing.
said
Every
they all
day.
said do not wear masks. Whatever you do not wear masks. It is not good for you. It is not healthy. If you don't have an N95 mask, don't wear a mask. And now they're saying wear a mask.
And now they're saying don't wear a mask too at the same time. It's really ridiculous, honestly.
No, actually, the president actually just came out this
They're
week
all
and
saying
said
it.
wear a
They're
mask.
all saying it.
Oh, I've seen some deferring.
Anyway, continue your story.
Brittany follows those conspiracy theories.
No, I do not. Yeah.
But no, but I understand. Our pediatrician actually just came out and said, look, the kids don't need to wear masks. Let them play with their friends. This is one of the only, this is the perfect time for them to, grow.
They're building their immune system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, everything, immune system, their mental ability, like when
You're gonna miss it. You're gonna miss
My
that time.
goodness.
Yeah, if you don't do it.
This is a fundamental age for our kids, and we're really messing up as a nation. And we're worried about a very small percentage. They come out with these numbers as if they're scary numbers, but it
They're
really
really
is a
not.
small percentage. And really, people are always dying of everything. I mean, we're dying of things all the time. And so
Well, you see the I won't say numbers because I don't really know them off the top of my head.
more
but
people die from the flu
I was
this
gonna
year.
say you see all kinds of people coming out with numbers saying the same given time period that
Yeah.
more people have died from this,
Yeah.
and then you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
It's frustrating.
take it or leave it. It is frustrating.
And for us, we as a church, we were like, all right, we'll do it, man. We'll flatten the curve. We'll be obedient to our local government. We'll try our best to follow the other churches and what they're doing in our church, in our leadership, and our Kentucky Baptist Convention.
KBC, yeah.
And now it's like, well, what was it for, right? Because there's already spikes. The spikes were supposed to come back to like the fall, and now
So,
they're
yeah,
happening
they said
2 weeks
they
later.
said like September, October, we were supposed to expect spikes again, but here we are.
And oddly enough, the spikes are happening after all the protests. But
But not from the
But
protesters.
it's not from the protest.
according to Mayor Cranley of Cincinnati, our Cincinnati mayor, he swears up and down it's from the young people at the bars, and it did not come from large mass gatherings where they're yelling and spitting and screaming and touching. And in the cops' faces, yelling and screaming and touching.
Take that how you want it.
None of it makes any sense to me whatsoever.
It's crazy.
None of it makes any sense because here's the reality. Only if I'm sick should I wear a mask so I don't get other people sick. It does. The masks do not protect me from getting it. But if I'm not sick, it's pointless to wear it. Now the question is, if you're asymptomatic,
Which
should
that's a
you-
whole other thing too.
But here's the thing, all of us are asymptomatic of everything probably, like, how do you know if people have the flu or not? I mean, how do you know if there's all these different things,
Yeah.
and so it's very frustrating. We as a church and as a staff, we haven't stopped with anything
We've been meeting with this podcast now for 16 weeks.
this close.
So this close. I mean, we're at one table.
Brittany,
Oh my.
Duh, we go by the number. Guys, this is blowing my mind
Someone please
of
help
how
me.
long it's been.
what's
Doesn't feel like it's been that
Doesn't.
long.
Oh, yes, it does.
Doesn't feel it.
The podcast doesn't, but it
Podcast
does,
does.
like, it's,
No,
this
that
pandemic,
part,
it's felt like
yes.
it's been
I'm
lasting
over it.
No,
forever.
I agree with that.
And for us, we had such a great momentum, right? And it's been a kind of a slow grow to get
Well, it was a
everything
good
back
push
to go.
because at the beginning of the year, pre-coronavirus, at
We
the
were
beginning of the year
pumped.
for us
Yeah.
was like, this was our year. We had a
Yes.
baptism goal of 40. We
Yes.
had everybody set out. I mean, we were doing.
Trinity's Funny Home Videos, we're gonna do
Oh,
Trinity's Funny
man.
Home Videos. We had a lot of cool
Don't get me
things that we were gonna
discouraged
be
again.
doing.
Come on.
Yeah, it's frustrating, man. And so our youth was growing. We were just in such a, we were
We
gonna
had
go
good
to
momentum.
camp.
We had
We were
good
gonna go to camp this
Oh,
year.
yes.
And it's just such a frustrating thing to be able to not, and it feels like it's just been a slow go since. And the way that they're talking, because, and I don't understand this because I feel like a lot of these politicians are like, they're good, like they're getting paid, their jobs are secured for a while. But for me, it's like, we're taking our time to get back in order, and like how long? Like, at what point do we go, all right, we're done?
Well, that was my thing from the beginning. Like shut down for when they first started saying shut down for 2 weeks. My thing was, well, what's the end goal here? How long are we going to actually?
2 weeks.
Right. Okay, within 2 weeks,
Then they
a
went
week
to
into
that,
that,
and
a
then
week
they
into
went
that, it was permanent.
And that's the problem.
That's the problem because now we're in it now. I don't see an end.
And for churches, we have a hard time because, if we sit there and go, well, don't listen to the politicians or the scientists and come to church, and if people start getting it, then it's going to fall on us.
Yeah.
And we're going to feel bad and look bad, but I just hate it because when the churches were shutting down a few months ago, it was always, the excuse was, we're going to be good neighbors, and we're going to be caring for our community by doing this. And so we did it. And now they're like, we got to do it again. You got to stop. There's one doctor locally who just swears up and down. We have to stop singing. It's frustrating. We've been having church
3
for
weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
4.
Yeah, 4 weeks.
5.
Now we haven't been purposely having handshake time or.
We're almost at
passing
5
offerings,
weeks. We're almost at 5 weeks.
Yeah.
But we've been singing every single week.
We've been singing,
Piano, Blair.
having fun.
You've been preaching, spitting.
It's interesting because our congregation will not wear masks. None of them, 100 something people, none of them wear masks.
And we've got them here if they want.
We have extra ones. We recommend it, but so I don't know. How is it that we don't get it in 5 weeks, but other places do? I don't know how this works. I don't know if there's a certain gene. I don't know. None of it makes sense, and it's hard to trust anybody.
Mhm. Because what people, scientists, health professionals, they don't even know what the thing is. It's changing so rapidly, or their opinions on it, or
Yeah.
their thoughts on it are changing so rapidly that you don't even know what to think. I mean, like you said, at one point, at the beginning, they said don't wear a mask. Now they say wear a mask. They said it only spread between, you could be asymptomatic, you could have it. That's why you got a quarantine for 2 weeks. But then they said it doesn't spread between asymptomatic and symptomatic people. It's only symptomatic. So it's the most confusing thing.
And it's
It's like
interesting.
math class.
Brittany does not like math class. It's very confusing.
And a lot of these other churches aren't struggling I don't think it's struggling as much as us because guess what? They've always led broken churches. They've always led churches that were not growing. And so they're just like, this is normal for us.
Normal behavior.
This is normal for us. Not only having 20 people show up is normal for us. Only not wanting to talk to anybody. This is normal for us.
Yeah. I was in
Not
a
greeting people. This
conversation.
is normal for us.
I was in a conversation with someone the other day, and they were like, why are you guys doing all this stuff? Like, why are you guys planning all these events, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like,
We're having church.
we're having church. Like, what are we supposed to do? Stop spreading the gospel? Stop having people come to church
Yes.
and teach them about the Lord? I'm like,
That's what they want.
and they're like, well, shouldn't you be taking precautions? I'm like, listen, if there was someone dying of COVID-19 that did not know the Lord, and we did not tell them about it, that's on us as
Woo!
Christians.
Preach,
That
Brittany.
is on us.
She woke up.
So let
She's been
me,
holding that
let
in
me-
for a couple episodes,
Let
huh?
me just ask you guys this. If
Preach to us.
Abram, if there was somebody's family that was like, Pastor Abram or Andrew or Brittany, my family is dying of COVID-19. We know nothing about the Lord. We just know that apparently you can be saved. And me or you guys, are we not going to tell them about
Nope,
Jesus?
we can't. This is what these pastors do. We can't because of this thing. We have to be precautious.
No.
It's idiotic.
No, that's ridiculous. And all I'm saying is if there was someone that I came across and I did not tell them about Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, that's on me.
It's on you.
And that's what these churches need to realize. Every church in the United States of America needs to realize, who are you working for? Are you working for the government, trying to be spies and being like, oh, we can't meet in church and all this stuff? Or are we working for the Lord?
Where's this coming from?
Who are we working for? It's ridiculous.
This is a great point.
I'm
Because,
glad you said it. That's
because
good.
and here's the thing. Because we have to look at the numbers on anything. Our online services, people are not interested in them anymore, right? They're old. And I've watched a lot of these other churches. They're old for me, right? Because, I'm sick of watching, and I was sick of this when I first saw it, but I'm sick of looking at somebody's dinner table where there's disgusting food everywhere and there's dogs running around behind it, and you're sitting there in your nasty clothes.
Well, the first 2 weeks you were experiencing pastors who had never ever touched Facebook Live before in their lives to try to figure it out.
And it was like sideways.
But here's the thing:
We're
we're 4 months into this thing, and they're still doing it.
Yeah.
Like I'm still. I saw Wednesday night. I went through a bunch of churches, and I'm like, they're in their dining room with a really bad quality camera, and they're like, oh, I messed up. I think it's not working. So I gotta, I'm sorry that there's. I'll just restart the whole thing over again. And it's like, it's just so idiotic to me, because I'm like, have church, man. Open up your church doors again and start having church. I saw a picture of a man that was kneeling in front of a church that was praying for God to open up the churches again. I'm like, buddy, it's going to take God to open up some of these churches, because we're being really idiotic about the whole situation, to be honest with you. And it's really frustrating to me. It's frustrating to me to see pastors who have stopped doing prayer walks. They've stopped reaching out to their community. And the reality is they never were in the beginning anyway.
That's
right?
the point.
And it's frustrating. It's frustrating because there's no point in having a church if you don't do outreach. There's no point in having a church if you don't serve. There's no point in having a church if you're not reaching the younger generation. There's no point in having a church if you neglect the older generation. There's no point in having a church if you're not preaching the gospel. There's no point in having a church if you're just talking theology the whole time, trying to tell 50 and 60s and 70-year-old people who have been in church their entire life what the weather was like in the time of Noah. Doesn't make sense. Can I preach this time? Woo! It doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
There's no point in having church, and I'm confused by it, because there's no reason to have it. If they haven't figured out the theology behind the Baptist faith at the age of 80, being in
And
church,
they're not
going to figure it out.
They probably
Sorry,
can't
buddy.
hear you, just saying.
And they probably can't hear you. And so we have to understand that we have a job to do as a church. The only purpose, and this, you find this in Ephesians 4, we talked about last week, but we are here as apostles and as teachers and as preachers, as church leaders, to equip the saints to go out and build up the kingdom of God.
Because that's exactly what church is.
That's all that church
Church,
is.
which is why nowhere in the Bible does it ever mention the phrase "go to church." You know what I'm saying? It's not in the Bible. Why? Because it's not.
Church should be everywhere.
Church is the people. We are the church. Where two, like I said earlier, where two or more are gathered, God is there. Church. That's where church is. That is church. You are church.
And I wish some of these churches would sit there and recognize that. But here's the reality: they're tired. Chuck Lawless shared like 8. I should probably find it. Chuck Lawless shared 8 reasons why. I'm gonna find it real quick, actually, because I just saw this email.
Chuck what?
Chuck Lawless. Chuck
Is he
Lawless.
like a
What does he
pastor,
do?
or is he just like an author?
Chuck Lawless is. I'm trying to think how to explain it. Chuck Lawless. I don't really know what he does. He works for I think it's churchleaders.com, I believe. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But he shared. He wrote an article. Chuck Lawless.
Here he is.
Is that his name? How you spell Lawless?
Chuck Lawless, just like you would think. Lawless.
Lawless.
Yep.
2 S's.
Correct. He is a professor, senior associate dean of the Billy Graham School of Missions.
Oh, interesting.
He has a lot of good points. He has a lot of good.
He's also involved in the Southern Baptist seminary world. So
The article was called 8 Reasons Why We Don't Do Evangelism Well.
do you want me to try to find this article as well?
Yeah.
Kinda slow.
I'm sorry.
Chuck.
8 reasons
Lawless. Chuck Lawless.
why we don't do
Are you
evangelism
just typing that into Facebook?
well. Yes, I was hoping that I don't remember. Here it is. 8 reasons. Chuck Lawless. If you type this in on Google, chucklaws.com, 8 reasons why we don't do evangelism well, the reasons are accurate. And this is what we see in a lot of churches. Number one, many church members don't really believe people are lost. He said, for years I've had students do anonymous surveys of their churches, and it's common that many regular attenders believe all good people will go to heaven. You don't have to do much evangelism when that's your theology. How accurate is that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
very true.
And you can tell it with pastors. When pastors are preaching, and they're not preaching to lost people, they're just preaching to their members, that's their mindset.
Yep.
That's their
And
mindset.
you know that they're doing it. You can tell by the way that they're preaching that they're doing that.
And it's frustrating because we should always have that, and this is what, I was hoping to see this when the pandemic happened and we started going online, everybody started going online. I was hoping that because you're preaching to a larger audience of non-believers, that they would change it, but it never did. Number two, it said many pastors don't do evangelism beyond the pulpit. Now, this is a huge one, right? Because if you're only going to sit there and tell people to do it behind the pulpit, but then they never see you do it, or you don't ever do it yourself, then that's a huge problem,
Practice
right?
what you preach.
I want to make sure that I'm doing more invites than the rest of the church. I want to talk to more people than the rest of the church. I want to have more gospel conversations than the rest of the church, right? You have to set the example as a pastor. Number three, churches don't provide much evangelism training. Now, this is we need to do a little bit more of this. I try to do it as much as I can on Wednesdays, but we have to do more on this, I think, as a church.
Yeah.
But we're an evangelistic church, right? Pretty much everything we do is really evangelistic mindset, right? So it's almost like we don't really. It's part of our bloodstream. I would say.
It's who we are as a church, I would say. Yeah.
So it's a little different for us. Some of these churches that don't do evangelism at all, you got to have training to teach you got to teach your people to do it. Because if you're not living it out and then they don't see it, they're not going to do it. Number four, many believers have lost their wonder over Jesus. Now, I've seen that a lot, right? This is one of the most heartbreaking things about churches is people aren't excited about church. And partly because they're in boring churches, or partly because they know the sermon before the pastor even preaches it because he's preached
Because
it
they've
100
heard
times.
it. Yeah, they've heard it a billion times.
All right, so they've lost their wonder. When a church doesn't see young people come through the door for years, you lose interest. I mean, it's heartbreaking. When you don't see change happening, it's heartbreaking, and you start to lose that wonder. Number five, we've made the church a place to retreat from the world, not a place to be renewed to reach the world. Right?
That's a good one.
Our church has become a hiding place, and it's our safety from the world. But we need to make
Should be the
sure-
opposite.
Yeah.
It should be our.
And I've said this before, it's our locker
It's our
room.
football huddle.
Yeah, it's our
a
locker room,
football
our huddle.
Yeah, so we should
Where-
get together. We
Encourage
hype
one
each other
another.
up, get each other ready to go out and
Discipline.
face the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Say this is wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, but you did this right too.
Yeah.
It has to look like that. It has to.
Well, I think to hit on that a little bit more, I think we treat church. We treat it as like a selfish thing for us.
Yes.
Like well, I got to go to church for me.
Yes.
But I like that. You got to change your mindset.
And
why you go to church.
And I was hoping, and a lot of churches were saying this at the time, but we were hearing when the pandemic happened, it was like, all right, we're mobilizing to go out. Like we are the church.
Should have been the way
the
all
church
along.
isn't the building.
Right.
But we're right back to like the church is the building.
Right.
People are
Yeah.
pumped to get in the church and sit down again and not have
But-
to do anything.
And yeah, I agree.
But for us, because even with this pandemic happened, what's our biggest focus? We're getting ready to do a serve week on July 12th. So for the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we've been pushing this serve week. So here in a week, we're going to sit there and go out into our community and serve. Even though there's a pandemic, even though no other church is doing anything, they're not even having night services. We're not only having night
We're
services,
canceling it.
but we're going to go out and serve.
Cancel it and serve
So
instead.
those
so.
are the reality of life. Number 6, many church members have no real relationships with non-believers. Now, I have a hard time believing this, but it says, I often ask believers, beginning with church leaders, to name 10 non-believers with whom they're close enough they could share the gospel with. It's very common that church folks cannot name 10 people.
So-
That blows my mind.
I don't know if that's a
I
hard one
can
to wrap my head
name
around.
100.
I could
of
too.
people.
I can name more. I can name
Hundreds.
more non-believers probably
I
than
could too.
believers.
Same.
Yeah.
And that's the bad thing about us. Ha! We hang out with the non-believers. But anyway, that's interesting. And if you don't have non-believers, and not saying that you should be hanging out with non-believers because you could be tempted to fall into their thing, but man, like most families have 10 non-believers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where my mind went straight ahead is my family.
Yeah, mine went to family
And
as well.
I guarantee all of those people who answered that question probably just wasn't thinking about their own family.
Well, number 7, it says, in fact, many believers seem to be afraid of non-believers. Like, that's why we're worried that they're going to influence us wrongly or harm our witness.
That was number 7?
And he says, yeah, that's number 7. He said, to be fair, I fully affirm that we must be wise in how we reach out to non-believers. He's right.
Yeah.
There was a guy that used to go to bars all the time to witness to people, and then now he's a drunk. So you do have to be a little careful. But the reality is, they need to know. Like, that's what I never understood from anybody, pastors, Christians. Those are the people that need to hear about God, right? They're the ones that need to hear the message, the good news. I already have it. This is why in Luke 15 was people have been using this for the race thing, which I'm going to debunk this right now.
Do it.
They go, Jesus left the 99 for the one.
Oh, I hate when they
And they go,
hate it.
this is what it means, this is what Black Lives Matter means. Jesus is leaving the 99 white people for the one black person. But the thing is, it's not about black and white, it's about lost and saved.
Yes.
He left the 99 righteous people because he knew where their hearts were for the lost. So essentially what they're saying is that black people are lost. You know what I'm
But
saying?
I think they've got it wrong from the
Sure.
beginning.
And that white people are the righteous ones, and the
Yeah.
black people are the unrighteous.
Yeah,
So it's a
right.
racist comment to
Yeah,
do it in
to
that
make.
text.
Yeah.
So you have to. So they're idiots when they say it. But what were you going to say?
I think they've got it wrong from the beginning of that entire thing because
But
God
yes.
doesn't see color anyway.
Right.
It just that statement is bizarre because God created everyone out of one man, right? Himself.
Yeah.
Created
We're
out of
created in His image.
There's no color mentioned in there. So,
Well,
but I hate how people do that.
But if color was an important thing, better believe it would have been in the Bible.
right, it would be
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
But
God
we
makes
know. But the thing is, we are when the righteous people should be in church, right? Those should be our church members. Those should be the ones that have made a profession of faith. So we should be leaving to go out and when Jesus was talking to Zacchaeus, he says, "I came to seek and save that which is lost." We have to do the same thing. Why wouldn't our mission be the same mission as Jesus? But sadly, it's not in all of our churches.
Well, it's weird because we call ourselves Christians, and we seem not to do what Jesus did.
yes,
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? But if we're going to be Christians, we have to literally do exactly what Christ did
yes.
while he was on this earth. That is literally our one goal: save that which is lost. We literally have to. That's the goal.
That's the goal.
right?
It's
What-
not
what's the point of
pleasing
life?
people, it's not picking a side. It's not any of that. It's what that is. Just
And it's not going to be comfortable.
no.
It's going to get you out of your comfort zone. Some of the conversations are going to be hard, but you got to
One of
trust.
my
Not like
favorite
you.
one of my favorite things is I think Brittany always says it. She says, "Do you think Jesus was comfortable when he carried the cross?"
I always say that.
Woo!
That's my go-to,
Boom.
guys.
Well, we, like today when we were cleaning up on that trail, it was, at first people were hesitant to talk to me because I have a shirt on that says, I don't really know what it says on the back.
The back says
Kind of funny, actually. I giggled. when I saw
pastor.
it.
No, be honest with you. Tell them exactly what you said when you saw it.
What did I say?
What's the church say? It says pastor because hardcore devils stomping ninja isn't an official title.
Brittany saw it today, she said,
It's pretty
that's
mature.
stupid.
I did not.
She
Did
did. I
I?
heard it.
I already did.
I think it's probably because you were on my nerves. So.
Wow, so I do get abused by Brittany.
You heard it here first,
We're here
folks.
first, finally. We finally got it on tape.
Good stuff. What's number 8?
Well, hold on. But we have to. That conversation was able to happen once he realized that I'm not threatening him. I'm not there to belittle him. I was just there to pick up trash, to be honest with you. But I think those are the conversations. We have to start building that relationship with people, non-believers as well. Build that relationship. So
Which doesn't building a relationship does not start out with, which I think we get this wrong as Christians all the time. Building a relationship does not immediately start out with, "Hey, you're a sinner. You're doing things terrible. You shouldn't be doing this."
that doesn't sound very Christian of
It
you.
doesn't. Wow. Okay. Wow. Golly. Wow. But
No, but sometimes
Gentle.
I think it does.
But no, but
Gentle.
that's
I was
the spirit
listening-
of gentleness. That's what I was
Gentle
trying to get at. You have to have, when you do that, you have to have the
Yes.
spirit of gentleness, even that approach.
right.
I was listening to, I think it was Robbie Zacharias or something like that. Is that his name? Zachary. You know what I'm talking. You know who I'm talking
You've
about.
thrown the mic 2 weeks in a row.
He just passed away. And he's like actually,
Doesn't
I've been
even
listening to
say
a lot of his videos or whatever.
Great.
And I was like, whoa, this guy's awesome. He's like, Jesus called me. He was talking about, I think it was, it was like same-sex marriage and all that. And he was talking about how holy matrimony, why Christians hold it so
Oh my gosh. You
honest
can't bring that
because
up
it's-
5 minutes before our podcast is over.
I
Go
know,
ahead.
because it's a man and a woman, and God makes that very clear. But he says that doesn't keep me from going and talking to a gay person or
But
like-
Christians think that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is.
Listen, oh, man.
There's a huge bridge that
Listen.
people just are like, well, I can't hang out with them
Yeah.
or talk to them.
So I did my lesson this Sunday was on forgiveness, and so for our Wednesday night service we had all of our people there, and so I literally went through 1 Corinthians where it says, "Who will not inherit the kingdom of God?"
Yeah.
Right, the drunkard, the covetous, the idolater, the adulterer, the homosexual. I named off all of them.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. And I said, if all of it, if you are one of these people, if you've ever done one of these things, coveted over somebody's yard or car, or have these tendencies, or cheat on your wife,
Yeah.
divorced, whatever the case is, if you've done one of these, we listed all 10 of them, I think there is. I said, if you've done any of these, raise your hand. Every single person raised their hand. Right? 30 people, 40 people, every single one of them raised their hand. I said, look around the room, right? According to that, because we like to take one section
Yeah.
of the Bible and say, this is a sin, and you're a sinner,
And we hold it higher than others.
yes,
Yeah.
but there Paul's sitting there going, look at all these things, and then at the very end though, he tells but the ones that are saved, right, are going to inherit the kingdom of God. The ones that repented from that sin and is no longer in that sin.
Changed, yeah.
And so we have to understand that we can't just hold people to one sin and nail that sin to their life, right? Because
Yeah.
guess what? That sin was nailed to the cross.
Yep.
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
Dang, the analogy.
And here's my last one, and we'll wrap this up. The last one, number 8, of why we don't do evangelism well. Some of us, if we're honest, just don't care enough.
That one hits.
We would
hard,
stand
doesn't it?
strongly on biblical teaching about the lostness of humanity and salvation through Christ alone. In fact, we fight to protect those teachings, but we still do nothing with them. That's a lack of concern. And that is honestly the focal point of it all. There is a bunch of us, and I'm talking about a bunch of Christians who just don't care. There's a bunch of pastors who just don't
Well, I think
care.
that goes right hand in hand with selfishness.
Yeah.
They're in it for the me factor,
Yeah, they're in it for the title, they're in it for the money, they're in it for the prestige, they're in it for the...
Or just to tell people they go to church.
Yes.
Whatever it is.
It's frustrating. It's we know some people that go to church just because they're salesmen and they make sales off of all the people at church.
Yeah.
Politicians, I know politicians
Want
that
votes.
they go to church because they're like, well, I get a bunch of votes here, and so. But you have to understand the reality that a lot of us just don't care, and that breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. There's a lot of pastors that are preaching from the pulpit that just really just don't care. Right? They feel like that's their only job they have to do is get up there, and I know that I'm called to preach. I'm called to preach the gospel wherever, whenever. But I also know that I'm a pastor, and I also know that I got to care for my flock. I also know I got to care for my community, and I got to see to it that we're doing our part as a church, to bless people and to build up the kingdom of God. It's hard to do, but that's the reality. So it's been an interesting time trying to run a church through a pandemic, and there's no answer. And I love it because all these seminary guys, they don't know what to do.
Yep.
And we don't know what to do.
We're all in it together.
Thanks, Andy.
I had to say it.
But the reality is,
Did you call me Andy?
yeah, Bashir. But we
Wow. I didn't even catch that. I thought you
I thought you were talking about Toy Story. I was
no,
like, I don't know
Andy
how to
Bashir.
say that.
That's what the governor.
Or my name's Andrew and you were calling me Andy.
For you Kentucky people, our governor's been saying it for every
We're
night.
in this together.
That's why I said it originally.
So anyway, it's just interesting, and for us, we're going to be God-led in everything we do because that's all we can do.
Andy.
Anything you want to say? Anything you want to say?
Yeah,
Your
I'm
spring-
really shocked that she was thinking Toy Story there. Anyway.
Well, thank you for tuning in to
We
Preaching
really
Young.
appreciate it. We appreciate it.
We'll see you next week. This is Abe from Crozier for the third time.
This is Andrew Baker.
And this is Brittany.
And you're listening to Preaching Young. I said, Preaching Young.
Hey guys, what's up? We thank you for listening to our podcast today. If you have any questions, you can email us at preachingyoung, no caps, no spaces, @gmail.com. Hope to see you next time.